Okay, so this nucleolus, this dense center part of the eukaryotic cell's nucleus, which we can see a diagram of the nucleus in the top left, and you can see the nucleolus centralized right here in the middle. So what is the nucleolus? What's the point of this centralized structure inside the nucleus, which is already in the center of the cell, housing DNA? Well, the nucleolus manufactures subunits of another organelle, an organelle called a ribosome. So the nucleolus makes ribosomes. And there are two subunits to ribosomes, two parts that make up a ribosome, the large subunit and the small subunit pictured here. Okay, this blob-looking structure, this is a ribosome. Here's the large subunit, and here's the small subunit. Together, these two pieces come together to make the ribosome, and these two pieces, large and small, are made individually inside the nucleolus of the nucleus. And these ribosomes, these subunits, are prime examples of why the nucleus needs to have these pores all over its nuclear membrane, because these ribosome subunits, they have to leave the nucleus. They have to travel out into the cytoplasm where they can come together, large subunit and small subunit, come together to make the ribosome. And that's that last blank down here, to make the ribosome. So, overall, what does the nucleus do? And we're spending a lot of time on the nucleus because of how important it is for the cell. Remember, it's the control center. It has all the DNA, most of the DNA of the cell inside of it in the form of chromosomes. So this nucleus does a lot. First and foremost, the nucleus is a carrier of genetic information, okay? Because this is where the nucleic acid DNA is found. And you're going to hear this term genes come up a lot every time we talk about DNA. You can just think of a gene as a small segment of DNA. A gene is a small segment of DNA that gives you a trait, right? Like hair color, eye color, skin color, these things. But when I say the nucleus controls everything, I mean the DNA inside the nucleus controls everything. For example, on the left here, the nucleus controls the reproduction of the cell, when one cell will become two. The nucleus controls all the activities of the cell, what goes where inside the cell, what gets fixed inside the cell, what gets broken down inside the cell. And the nucleus directs protein synthesis by sending messages out to ribosomes. So ribosomes are made in the nucleolus of the nucleus, sent out into the cytoplasm, where they await another message that's going to come from DNA inside the nucleus to make proteins. And again, proteins, another macromolecule from Unit 2, proteins do everything inside the cell. Don't forget that. All right, so let's talk about this ribosome. Okay, what are these things made in the nucleus, and what are they good for? Or I'm sorry, made inside the nucleolus, which is in the nucleus. So ribosomes can be found in any one of two places. They can either be free floating around in the cytoplasm, which, remember, the cytoplasm is a semi-fluid liquid outside of the nucleus, or they can be found attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. All right, now let me break this down for you. We have the nucleus right here of the cell. This is another image of the nucleus of the cell. I've cut the top off so we can see inside. And then we have this almost like folded sheet looking structure. This is another organelle. This is the endoplasmic reticulum. All right, so ribosomes are made in the nucleolus, which is somewhere inside the nucleus. They're sent out of the nucleus via the nuclear pore. They float around in the cytoplasm where they end up attached here to this other organelle called the endoplasmic reticulum. Ribosomes are the most numerous of the cell's organelles, and we'll talk about why they're so numerous here in a moment. Ribosomes are where proteins are made. They're little protein factories. Every protein inside the cell that does anything was made on a ribosome or at a ribosome. So that makes total sense as to why ribosomes are so numerous inside the cell, why there are so many, because remember, proteins do everything for the cell. So there has to be a bunch of proteins, so there must be a bunch of ribosomes to make them. So ribosomes are the site of protein synthesis. And if you're getting confused on this word synthesis, synthesis just means to make. All right, so ribosomes are the place where proteins are made. All right, let's talk about this endoplasmic reticulum, this folded sheet looking structure that almost looks like it's directly connected to the nucleus here. All right, this is another cross section of our nucleus, the dark purple. We can see the nuclear pores, and we see our folded sheet-like structure here as the endoplasmic reticulum. Let's find out exactly what this thing does. So it's an internal membrane. It's like a membranous sac that's all folded in on itself. And we call it the endoplasmic reticulum. It's extensive. It's very, very big. It's so extensive, in fact, that it accounts for more than half the total membrane of the cell. And the cell is covered on the outside by a membrane. And this guy, this endoplasmic reticulum, still accounts for half of it. So it's a very big internal membrane that's pressed right up against the nucleus. And being pressed right up against the nucleus and being such a big, big organelle inside the cell, it actually connects the nuclear membrane, which you can see right here, the nuclear membrane. It attaches that to the cell membrane. So it attaches the control center of the cell to the most outer region of the cell. So the cell is one big connection, and the ER accomplishes that. And it's important to note, there are ribosomes on the ER, so that means the ER is also a site of protein synthesis. All right, we'll catch up with the ER in the next one.